On that blasted candy for Valentine's. Hi there. Welcome everybody to Cast Iron Wednesday. This, of course, is a long-running tradition that a number of YouTube cooking channels have been doing for at least the last several years or so, and that includes this channel. I've somehow managed to do a cast iron video almost every week here on Wednesday for going on the last 4.5 years now. I'm as amazed to say that as you might be to hear that. I've somehow been doing these live videos for that long, and well, I keep coming back because they're fun and because I haven't destroyed my kitchen yet. Of course, tonight might be the night. Who knows? I mean, after all, the last time I made a cake here on YouTube Live, that was back around Christmas when I made that fruit cake that set my oven on fire. So we can only see what happens now. The oven has already preheated to 425 degrees, and well, no flames yet, although the flames are going to be coming soon. So, hello to everybody, and of course, happy Valentine's Day, the day after tomorrow, to those of us or you who celebrate it. And hello to everybody who has been kind enough to show up here in my kitchen once again this evening, this Wednesday evening. And I am very grateful, as always, to the folks who have been kind enough to return to this channel again and again. And also, I'm glad to see new faces too when they appear. Like, hello, Honey Badger and Rocket Caver, and hello, Hog Wild Cast Iron Restoration and Greg Hart. Val's Black Cats Rule, and Pat Z, Rocket Caver, Ronald Coward, and Rich Qualls, and Greg Hart. Yeah, all of these are familiar faces, and I'm very great and I'm very glad to be seeing all of you folks watching from Southern California. Yes, and I understand one person actually is out on a job site tonight. Well, here's hoping everything goes okay there. And hello as well to Rich Silva and Kevin Brown. Hello. I think I've seen you once or twice, but thank you very much for coming back. And hello, Jamie Ledgerwood and everybody else, because we are about to get started making a cake once again. Because, well, Valentine's Day, and any excuse really to make a cake in cast iron is a good excuse. I should really get started because I do hope to be able to reveal the finished cake by the time this video ends, maybe in an hour and a half or so. So let's get started, shall we? Thank you to everybody. That means I almost always make my cakes from scratch because they're really not that difficult to do. Especially when we're talking about a vanilla cake. Which is about almost as basic a cake as you can make. Arguably, a pound cake might be more so. I have already sifted some cake flour here. The recipe is on the description of this website of this video tonight. So there's the link there to cast iron vanilla cake. And so for this, that means we start out with. We've got the cake flour. We're going to be adding 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Yeah, that's right, powder. There are only a few ingredients to this, so this won't take long, as long as I use the correct measurements, that is. There we go. 2 teaspoons baking powder. Come on, that's 1, 2. And then from there, we also do 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. So get out my 1/4 teaspoon here. You know, the one that people argue really has no effect at all. 1, 2, and 3. And to this, we also add some salt, specifically 1 teaspoon of salt, and that's going to be it for our dry ingredients. That shows you how easy this is. I have no problem at all with anyone who regularly makes box cake mix. I mean, box cake mix certainly does have some advantages, and that it's designed to be extremely moist. And really, homemade cake, quite frankly, these days can't compare with that in the moistness department, but hopefully the flavor certainly beats that out, which is the main reason why I make this from scratch. Just got to whisk all of these dry ingredients together. And then from there, I have to go into my ironclad bulletproof vault and bring out something extremely valuable. Something that I have to be sure to guard with my life these days. So let us bring out. Try not to break it. Ugh. Eggs. 5 of them to be precise. Although according to this recipe here, I'm going to be using 3 whole eggs and 2 egg whites. Actually, I better get a little dish out for the egg yolks that we're not going to be using here. Because it occurs to me I can give the egg yolks to my cat, dear little Miss Mowgli. Maybe she'll actually eat them too. She really turns her nose up at most human food here. Anyway, I suppose I better start with the hard part first, which is carefully separating these first 2 eggs here. So let's get out this shell. Oh, yep, of course it goes right into the bowl, doesn't it? There we go. I better make sure. Is this on camera? Yes, it is. Okay. Just little by little. Wait a second, I'm doing this wrong anyway. I'm supposed to be doing it here. As usual, I'm not thinking. Little by little. And it looks like, I also don't want to put my wrist and arm in front of the camera. I'd say at this point we're about ready to plop the yolk out. There we go. Putting the rest of that. So there's 1. Let's try that again. I didn't spill too much of it. Here comes number 2. Yeah, so anyway, as you can see, I'm cracking a little hole in the top here to bring out the whites, and this hole is a little too small. In fact, I'd better expand it a little bit so that I can get the yolk out. I've used an egg separator before, and it does a good job. Though, come on. Plop. Ugh, that one broke. What can I do? Oh, damn it. Oh, well, a little bit more there. I'm going to be using egg yolk anyway, but anyway, here is our egg yolk. I will offer that to Miss Mowgli when I see her tonight. That was the hard part. Now for the easy part. 1, 2, and 3. There we go. Yes, indeed. I figure at this point, these eggs here probably cost about $50 or so. I'm exaggerating, I think. I suppose these days it's hard to tell. Everybody's talking about how expensive eggs are getting because of this bird flu epidemic that is going around. It is hit here in New York. I was at the supermarket today. I did not bother checking the price of eggs. I understand that eggs may have hit something like $9 or so. The chicken at Price Chopper was not on sale. Currently, the thighs were $1.99 a pound, and I have seen them at that price before. So I don't know if chicken prices have started to rise or not, other than all of these egg prices. Anyway, that takes care of that. Now that we've done that, let's open this up again. Okay, yep, that was the hard part. Okay, that's good. That means it is now time to break out the mixer. All right. So far, so good. Chicken breasts are $2.49. Yeah, I think chicken breasts were $2.49 in my area as well, too. Okay, maybe I might even want to raise this a little bit so that we can have a decent view of when this thing gets going. There we go. That might be a little better. Let's pop this on. Okay. Now to this, we do 2 cups of sugar. Do this right. There we go. Cover the sugar so nothing happens to that. And break out. This has gotten hot already. Pot holder. Break out a cast iron pan where I have been heating up some butter. Essentially, I put these 3 sticks of butter in this pan and then just placed it over the stove with the heat turned off. But while it was heating up, the oven has been heating up. So I would say this has certainly softened this butter here. And I'm supposed to do 3 sticks of butter. So try to do this without it leaking. One. Two coming up. And 3. Come on. There we go. All right. I think I'll keep the mic a little ways away so that when I turn the mixer on, it won't drown out the mic, or at least I hope not. And away we go. Cream together the cream together the sugar and butter. And then once we do that, and this is not taking long at all, is it? We will be adding the eggs and the egg whites. Hello, Fatty Meats, and congratulations on your first vintage cast iron piece. Tell us what it is. All right. Oh, you got the hoghead pan. Excellent. That, of course, is a head cheese pan. But I have also made cakes in that, including cornbread. All right. This is definitely... I can turn this down a little bit, in fact. No, down, I said. There we go. All right, this is definitely creamed together. So next up comes the eggs. If there's any problem with the sound, please tell everybody. Please let me know here. As I said, I have the microphone a little distance from the mixer so that it doesn't drown everything out. Yeah, I had my mixer professionally cleaned, and yet it still makes a lot of noise. I guess there's no choice for that. All right. Once this is in, Next up, we add some buttermilk. 1.5 cups to be precise. By the way, notice I'm keeping the mixer only a little bit above its lowest setting. With cake batter here, as I've since learned, you don't need to really mix it on its highest setting. You just need to gently mix it. And once I add the dry ingredients and fold it all in, I'm only going to do it until everything is just combined. I'm going to do my best not to overmix it. Actually, I had better start preparing for that hot cast iron pan over here. All right. Okay, now for the dry ingredients. Better dig out my spatula. Looks like we're almost done already. I better scrape the bowl first. All right, scraping the bowl. Oops, and knocking the camera around. Okay. Now for a few more seconds. Taste tested the spatula. That tastes pretty darn good. Put these things aside. And you believe we are ready now. Nice. Although I think I missed something. Whoops. Little bit of flour here on top of the paddle. All right, now we should be all ready. Oh yeah. Scrape this as best as we can. Trying to waste as little as possible. And here is the part where I wish I had kids here so that they could lick the batter. I mean the beater. All right. But say we're about as ready as we can be. Okay, that means it's time to change the view around again. Back over to here, where finally, 20 minutes into this video, we're actually going to see some cast iron because it is time to break out the cake pan that I have been preheating in the oven. That means got to put on my heavy gloves. And here it comes. Mm. Behold the Monarch, the cast iron bunt pan well, it's not a bunt pan, it's a cake pan that I was lucky enough to find at the Brimfield Antique Show. Wow, it's already been 3 years. I found it in 2021, but I'm certainly doing my best to get some use out of it. And rather than talk about it, let's get this thing greased up. Better keep one of these gloves on. All right. Yeah, this is, as I've said enough times, this is the method I use for baking a cake in cast iron because I've had a high success rate this way. Not 100%, but a high success rate nonetheless. While this is still hot, I need to coat every inch of this with the melted Crisco. All right. And once we have done that, here comes the batter. Carefully, because this is one very hot pan. Means first, we pour the extra batter in and mix it in. Actually, I used the wrong thing. I should have used the spatula. Let's get this out and get out that spatula. All right. And here it comes. Carefully. All right. Okay, now we go on the roller coaster ride over to the oven. Into the oven it goes with the gloves on. Ugh. 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 And most importantly, we turn the temperature down to 350 degrees. Okay, it is 8:25. This cake is supposed to bake for 50 minutes. Oh, what kind of cake are we having, Huggy Bear? We're having a vanilla cake. I made a vanilla cake using cake flour and your basic ingredients here. All right. Yeah, I do. Yeah, this batter turned out pretty fluffy. I like that. So, mixer is noisy because your steel gears versus the nylon gears. Yeah, you might very well be right. One pan, man. I really don't know how old this particular KitchenAid mixer is. It said, I mean, this thing here says Epicurean, and it does not seem to be a common type. I mean, I've looked on places like like Mr. Mixer, for instance, and I don't seem to see many specimens of this particular kind. This does not have the. Whoops, I think I went over too far over. Here we are. This does not have the tilting top. It's all in one piece. So, I mean, that definitely means this is more of a commercial mixer than a home mixer. And like I said, I had this thing professionally cleaned where they did replace one broken part on the inside. That was going on maybe about 2 years or so ago. And I have been using this thing ever since. So I will just keep on using it. And there's really not much more I can do there. Okay. I traded the rain in Galveston for 8 inches of snow in DC. Well, good luck to you, WC, and welcome to this channel as well. Valentine's Day is also my wedding anniversary. Well, that's nice. Well, that's a good day, wedding, Kevin Brown. In that case, I can only hope that you are either making or otherwise having an anniversary cake. If not, well, maybe this might inspire you to make one because, as you can see, it's really not that difficult. And besides, you don't even need to use a cast iron cake pan either. There are other pans out there in cast iron land that might be easier to obtain. Like, for example, let me pull the camera over here for the moment. For example, especially these days, they are making these 2-quart enameled heart-shaped cast iron Dutch ovens, and you can find them easily just about anywhere, especially places like TJ Maxx. Well, you might want to consider this is a perfect size cake pan too. So yes, you could actually make a cake in this. So you might want to consider that a small suggestion. All right. Let's see. I'll comment on a couple more comments. However, while we do this, I'm going to turn them over to the stove where we get to watch some more cast iron. Move this down a little bit. There we go, because after all, this is a cast iron channel, so I'm sure you folks want to see cast iron, especially one that is heating up to hot steak searing temperatures. Yep, that's right. Okay, yeah, if you forget it, you were screwed. Oh, yeah, forget your anniversary. That is, yes, exactly. So, okay, let me double check a couple of these comments. Where did my mouse go? Where did the mouse go? Oh, there it is. Let's see what else we have here. Come on. Oh, what the hell? I'm not trying to bring up pop-ups. Okay. You didn't dust the pan. Now, Cynthia, no, when I do it this way, all I do is simply grease it, as you saw. I put the pan into the oven, the bare iron pan into the oven, dry, heated up to 425 degrees. When it comes out, as you saw, I melt Crisco and treat every inch of that inner surface, every bit of it, with melted Crisco. It's not necessary to dust the pan, as I found out. I've made quite a few cakes using this method. And I can only hope tonight, well, continues, as I said, not a 100% success rate, but hopefully tonight's cake will be successful as well. All right. William heard there's too much happening in head cheese. Yeah. Okay. Glad you mentioned the cast iron museum pan. Oh, good. On my drive through. I'm glad to hear that, WC, because I understand that cast iron museum pan is eventually going to be discontinued, assuming what they said at the Lodge store last year was true. They'll probably come up with a different design pan, but eventually that cast iron museum pan is going to be sold out. Think it's payback for being out of town during Valentine's Day. Yes, indeed. Okay, as I mentioned, we have got a cast iron pan sitting on the stove top here, getting all nice and hot because we are going to be doing the other part of this particular video tonight, and that is we're going to be searing ourselves a nice fat steak in this pan. Because that's the other thing that a lot of people make on Valentine's Day. Unless you're vegetarian, I suppose. But in this case, I'm not. So let's show what this one is. I've mentioned this once or twice, but here, let's take a look at it. Yep, it's the Wok number 9. The one that I could not give away on Christmas. So, yeah. And instead, it's here in my kitchen getting some use. All right, hot for Valentine's Day. What a concept. Okay, but yeah, this is a vintage Wapak number 9 size skillet. I chose a number 9 size skillet because, as it turns out, this is actually going to be a pretty big steak here. Let me cover this Crisco. And for the moment, I think I will move this view back to here so that we can show you. Don't you just love moving back and forth like this? All right, let me get this out of the fridge right now. Here we are. Here is our sirloin steak, which, as I understand it, is a little more than a pound in size, and it's nice and thick too. Yes, in fact, it is. In fact, I did not heat it up. I did not let it come to room temperature. I've actually had good luck cooking these steaks from a colder temperature, but I actually did a short video on this. I think sometime within the last month that I have had a lot of luck with my steaks by doing it this way. Before actually searing them in the pan, several hours in advance, I coated the steak on both sides of the steak with salt and pepper and left it in the fridge to dry out, or to dry brine. Yeah, that's right. It was that video where I called it dry aging, and everybody tore me a new one because I wasn't using the correct term for it. Regardless of whether you call it dry aging or dry brining, that's what it does. The steak does seem to have a different color, but again, only the outside of the steak is dry. The inside is most definitely moist. Now we're going to get to see this in action. So now that we've done that, whoops, sorry. One last look at this nice, definitely uncooked steak. And then we will get on to the stovetop once again. Okay. One of the reasons, well, yeah, there are two reasons why I have been doing my steaks this way. Steak. One of them is this actually, I find, puts a really, really good crust on the steak. And the other reason, which I have definitely learned to appreciate, is that it produces a lot less smoke when this steak goes into the pan. You know, that's the thing about cooking steaks in cast iron. Your whole house fills up with smoke. Speaking of which, let me get out my corn oil. I like using corn oil for doing my steaks here. It's a high heat, high smoke point oil, and I don't really think this actually puts much of any real flavor in the steak, which is good because I want to be sure to taste the steak here. I mean, yeah, this thing, besides with the way this thing is smoking, I'm glad it's a high smoke point oil. I am a little done with fires for a while, for the most part anyway. However, let's get started and let us sear ourselves a steak. All right. All right, hopefully you can hear the sizzle there. And while there is quite a bit of smoke coming up, I would not say this is such extreme smoke as we have often seen when making a steak. Definitely not smokeless. Nonetheless, yeah, by the way, the smoke detector, well, let's just say that's taken care of because, as you know, on a live video, I should not ever say things like taking down the smoke detector or covering it up because while it's technically not illegal, it is not recommended. And so I have absolutely not taken down my smoke detector and covered it up. Nonetheless, I do actually have a fire extinguisher nearby, just in case. Although it looks like I don't think we're going to have any problem with this. That wall pack will warp pretty easily. Yeah, I know. I'm very much aware of that because this is a thin and light cast iron pan. I mean, that's why in some ways, I know some people compare this with Griswold. Although I think when it comes to quality in vintage cast iron, I would probably put Favorite in the same category as Griswold as far as smooth, light, and very well polished. All right. Sam Ostoff, I usually dry brine uncovered for 2 to 3 days in the fridge. I have not done that long with a steak. It's okay. Of course, this is one of those subjects that I don't think anybody is ever going to agree on. I have done some research, so to speak, meaning looking up on the web on doing dry browning. And I've seen some people talk about the results that 24 hours or so seems to be about the optimum time for dry browning this. Longer than that, I understand maybe the steak might get too salty, perhaps. Although I'm sure if some folks disagree with me on this, they could certainly do so. I think it might very well be on a case by case basis, and I am not here to lay down the absolute rules. I am not saying you must cook it this way, because of course the best way to do it is the way that works best for you. All those videos out there that all say the ultimate way to cook a steak, or the only way to cook a steak, or you must cook your steak this way. Speaking of which, I think it's time to flip it. Check out that crust, though. Oh, yeah, that's the other thing about that video, that short video where I mentioned I coated the steak with kosher salt and black pepper, and everybody said the same thing. The pepper is going to burn. I, for one, have not had a problem with that. I wouldn't even say if what we're seeing here is burned pepper, because I have made steaks like this, and I, for one, have enjoyed them. And no, I personally would not say that I have tasted burned pepper. But maybe that's just me, because I have said as well that I'm a pepperholic. Speaking of which, even though I only just flipped it, where did that go? There it is. Probe thermometer. I mean, granted, I did just only put it in. And as you can see, this thing is currently now at about 63 degrees. This is, and over here it says about 70. Over here it says about, also about 69. So we're doing pretty good here. This is why, as I mentioned, I did not let the steak come to room temperature. I actually came to the conclusion myself some time ago, maybe not scientific, but this was my conclusion, that if I start the steak at a colder temperature, I'll have more time to cook it. So that, get a better crust on the steak for one thing. while keeping track of the temperature and making sure that it still doesn't get up above the temperature that I want. I think the main objection to cooking a steak cold is supposedly that it cooks uneven and you have hot spots. You saw just now I measured 3 separate areas of the steak, and they were all roughly the same temperature. Of course, on the other hand, that is one thing. I did get a fairly thick steak. If your steak is too thin, it is going to cook far too fast. So that is one lesson I've learned over the years. I try not to get thin steaks unless I'm going to be doing other things like steak tips or cutting them up for stir fries or the like. If I want to cook a steak like this, or if you want to cook a steak like this, I do recommend get yourself a thick steak. Even if it's small size in its diameter, make sure it's nice and thick. I find that the dryness of the steak reduces the smoke quite a bit. Yes, exactly. I also use no oil. I start the steak in a cold pan, very low heat, and let the fat render. Well, that's interesting, Sam Ostrov. Well, as you can see, I did add oil, but it's always worth considering, I suppose. Nonetheless, I mean, that's what I found out as well about drying out the steak in advance. And as you can see, my house is not full of smoke. Yay! How nice. Let's flip it again. There's the other side. Oh yeah, one other thing, and I learned this one years ago as well. I don't find it absolutely necessary to only flip the steak once. It seems to me that if you flip the steak more often, then you are more evenly heating both sides of it. At least that is what my conclusion has been so far. That's why I only show my countertop. My kitchen is pretty clean, but someone will notice something. Yes, exactly. I mean, in the last couple of years, I'm sorry to say, I have started getting some clutter in my kitchen, and I've got to be really careful about that too. All right, I had put that. I had put that in the pan. I had put that in the oven. That cake in the oven. I think it was 825, which means that it comes out of the oven at 9:15. 50 minutes. All right. There are many good ways to cook steak, Ronald Howard. You are absolutely right. There are almost as many ways to cook a steak as there are to make cornbread. There is not a one single way to make steak. This is not rocket science. This is not math. It is not like where there is only one right way and every other way is wrong. And if someone tells you that, then they're wrong. In fact, let's check that temperature once again. Looks like we are just at about 90. Well, this side here seems to have gone up a little bit over 100. Okay, and here, if this is accurate, we might actually be getting close. That can't be right. All right, let's go back over here. Yeah, I'd say this thing actually is, I think we might be almost done at this point. So that really was a lot faster than I thought. In that case, I'll just do one more flip to get. Although maybe I don't know. I had better not take any chances. Okay, let's get this going. My steaks usually seem to come out more towards medium rather than medium rare, and I'm not happy about that. But here we are. That really did not take long at all, in fact. Not bad for a 1 pound sirloin steak, maybe a little more than a pound, in fact. Okay. Turn off the heat. Oh, and by the way, in regards to warping this pan, I heated this pan up at a little more than medium, halfway on my stovetop. I never heat my cast iron up at a high. I've learned really, especially with a gas stove, about medium is all you really need for just about everything. All right. Kevin Brown, I've always been afraid of piercing the steak completely and touching the pan with a probe. Has anyone ever cooked one of the Wagyu steaks that's nearly all fat? I have not had the chance to do so. Isn't it amazing how some actually, you know what? While I'm waiting, I'm better do actually I'm going to put this heat back on here because I had wanted to make myself a gravy on this. So, yeah. uh, It's like these live videos, I always forget whether I'm coming or going here. I mean, this pan is still hot, which means let me do this right. And really, there's not a lot of liquid in the pan this time. Sometimes I've had a lot more liquid in the pan, which means let's do this right, shall we? Let us get some butter. Where did that go? Okay, good. There we go. And at the same time, you don't want to burn the butter either. Because, yeah, here comes the smoke again. That's for sure. All right, now we have liquid. Where did I put that whisk? There it is. Looks like I got to clean it off. In fact, down to one whisk right now. Work on that. Good. Now that we've done that, let's throw in a little bit of flour. Not much. And start whisking away. You know, get rid of the flour taste. In fact, I gotta be sure. I think I'm gonna turn the heat down a little bit. In fact, now that we've done that, I had wanted to do this garlic here while the steak was in the pan, but apparently it went too fast. So let's do this. Essentially, we're going to be frying ourselves up some garlic here. Come on. Yeah, I'm using entirely the wrong utensil for this. What do you expect? All right, and while we are doing that, let us start adding some beef broth. That's the other thing I learned was a learning experience for making roux, in that at that point you don't want to add more flour, because when you add the liquid, as you can see, it all congeals to make your roux. So that proves, at least, I definitely did not use too much liquid, and this is not a bad amount of flour either. Now it's time to start adding beef broth. While that garlic continues to cook. Not able to look at the comments, I'm afraid, because I'm concentrating on making this gravy here. Hope I have enough beef broth, in fact. If I have to, I may have to switch over to milk, but I hope I don't need to do that. There is still a fair amount here. In fact, if it goes the other way and it becomes too liquid, well, I can always just reduce it. But the thing about cast iron, of course, is that it tends to make very, very thick gravy. Just when your gravy, you think you've got your gravy looking perfect, it thickens even a little more, and then suddenly it's too thick, and you have to add still more liquid. This is still too thick, for instance. But I think we're getting close now. All right, now finally, at this point, throw in a little salt. We don't need a lot. Ground pepper, which I love. Maybe only a dash of Worcestershire, not too much. Because again, I don't want to drown out the steak. And yeah, this time is just, actually, this is going faster than I expected. It's only 10 minutes of 9. Looks like the steak is ready. I'd say the gravy is about ready at this point. Maybe a dash of Worcestershire, but no more than that. Anyway, if you haven't done so already in the comments, because I've been missing the comments, I'm afraid, tell us what you are doing for Valentine's Day, even if it's not cooking in cast iron. Of course, I hope you are cooking in cast iron at some point this weekend. But even so, there are so many things you can do, especially since a lot of us are going to be cooking for family as well as our sweetie, whoever our sweetie is. In fact, I think it's time to throw in a little bit more, and then we should be all done. All right. With any luck, we've cooked this garlic too. Let's turn off the heat, because I do believe our gravy is ready. All right, so far so good. Unfortunately, the steak has been resting too. Which means I will move my microphone back over. And it's time now to head back over once again to where our steak has been waiting. Because this is the part where I always hold my breath and hope I didn't overcook it. I mean, the temperature seemed to shoot up there, so we can only see what happens. That means I have to say, I found this particular knife at a flea market a little more than a year ago, maybe going on 2 years. And this has really, really become one of my favorite steak knives and cutting knives. Okay, but let me make sure it's not going against the grain. I'm pretty sure, yeah, that's right. I think might as well get going and see what it looks like. And the result? Ooh, not bad. Not bad at all. Check this out, folks. I do believe I would probably call this just on the cusp of medium rare, which means we have our Valentine steak. Mhm. Nice. All right. That sure didn't take long. It's not an old hickory knife, in fact, it's a forge craft. Yeah, and it wasn't only until I looked it up that I realized Forge Craft actually the brand name disappeared. I'm not sure if the company went out of business or not, but the brand name disappeared quite some time ago, like maybe about the 1970s or so. I distinctly remember as I was growing up, we had Forge Craft steak knives. And that was the main reason why I got this. But as I said, it turns out we this is definitely more vintage than I expected. So I am quite happy with that. All right. Uh-oh, buffering. Uh-oh. I hope not. Is anybody else buffering? I hope is anybody else having a problem? I hope the feed hasn't locked up here. All right. My single friends say Happy Single Awareness Day. Yes, there is that too. I mean, I know there's a whole lot of stuff about Valentine's Day. And frankly, I'm not going to go into a lot of it. Essentially, I hope everybody celebrates their Valentine's Day the way they want to. Let's try it that way. Instead of they end up celebrating Valentine's Day in a way that they don't want to. I mean, if you want to celebrate alone, then do so. If you want to celebrate with your sweetie, then do so. Whatever you want to do. All right, and having said that, where is it? Okay, this will have to do. Let us add some of our gravy to our steak. This is still hot gravy here. Huh? So even though the steak was resting, it's most definitely nice and hot. All right. And this is kind of like a warm up for Valentine's Day, but I did it especially for you folks. Oh, and this is not too bad. So I guess I had better take at least one bite of the steak. If you'll excuse me, here we go. Mm. Oh, oh man. Mm. 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 I love steak. Oh man. Mm. oh man. Mm. mm. Ah. Sirloin has such good flavor. Mm. Well, the garlic has softened, but not entirely to the point where it completely comes apart. But I'm going to give this a try anyway. Mm. Mm. Not bad. Yeah, as I said, this is not like the part where you can just simply press against the garlic and it just, and it just like it becomes mash or anything. But definitely adds some flavor to this. Okay. Hmm. I'd say, well, yeah, too rare for me. Again, everybody has their own way of cooking a steak. And as I said, I'm not here to criticize anyone. I personally think this is about as good as I could have gotten it. So I'm quite happy with that. Meanwhile, it's going on 9 o'clock. Let me take a look in the oven at that cake. Looks to me like that cake is rising nicely. And it suddenly occurs to me I might actually have it on too high an oven rack, so I'm going to have to be careful when I get this out of the oven. I have to see what my cake tester is like. In fact, yeah, let me adjust the camera. I'm going to give you folks a view. I think my oven rack may be too high. I'm not sure if you can even see it, in fact. All right. Nonetheless, now that we have gotten this far, let's bring this down a little bit. Ugh. Move the microphone a little closer. And I think I finally have time to catch up with a few comments here. And thank you very much for all that. Hearty meal that sticks to your ribs on a cold winter's night. That is definitely the case. And that's one reason why I love steak. Valentine's Day is really a great excuse for it. I like the kind hat someone else buys. And I had leftover pork chop, broccoli, and mac and cheese. Oh, that sounds good though. Hey, I would have no complaints at all with that. That's for sure. Better than the goulash hamburger helper I made tonight. Well, hey, what's wrong with goulash, Mark Sieber? I mean, after all, this is still 2 days before Valentine's Day. I did this tonight because, well, really, I wanted to show off to you folks on Cast Iron Wednesday. I won't deny that, because it's a lot of fun. Any excuse for a steak is a good one, of course. And with any luck, somebody special, I am going to be cooking a steak for her on Friday evening as well. Price Chopper in my area, they always do this heart-shaped steak on for Valentine's Day. I actually asked about that this morning, and they said they have not put it out yet. They're going to put it out tomorrow, the day before Valentine's Day. So something to look forward to. Okay. Got me wanting a second dinner tonight. Well, thank you very much, Pepe Chris 15. Well, thank you again. I like how that turned out as well. Yeah, so this is definitely going to tide me over. That's for sure. On February 14th, my single friends say Happy Single Awareness Day. Yeah, we went over that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either. Again, what the best thing to do is to celebrate Valentine's Day or February 14th or whatever you call it the way you want to. I'm not really shoving this in your face. I mean, it's only Valentine's Day, so you can do whatever you want. Besides, as we know, hmm, something in my teeth, unfortunately. Better get out a toothpick. Anyway, for some folks, as we know, 1 month after Valentine's Day, March 14th, there are two things about that date. One is it's Pi Day, and the other is, let's just call it Steak and BJ Day. If you don't know about that, look it up. It's essentially like supposed to be a reaction to Valentine's Day. Supposedly, like the guy doesn't get enough attention on Valentine's Day, so they put a special day aside 1 month after Valentine's Day for steak and I don't know if I should even say that again. All right. Some people cook their steaks still frozen. Exactly, Huggy Bear. That's just it. I have had, as I said, I have good luck with my steaks. As you saw, I was worried that I had overcooked that steak because the temperature seemed to suddenly shoot up, and yet when I cut into it, it seemed to be almost perfect the way that I like it. So I'm certainly not complaining about that at all. That's for sure. Lots of shrooms. Yeah, that's a good thing too. I love shrooms. The missus and I are having a roast beef dinner with spuds and Yorkshire pudding. Nice. That all sounds good. I'm not sure if that's tonight or Valentine's Day, but whichever it is, that is definitely a dinner that is worth it. Make it a red eye gravy and stay up all night. I got myself some faster RAM for my computer for Valentine's Day. Well, there's a nice present, and nothing wrong with that either. Any excuse is a good excuse. Pour some of the juice from the resting steak in the gravy. Could have done that, but unfortunately, I didn't see the comments here. I was concentrating too much on the gravy. I'm sorry to say. I've honestly never made gravy in a cast iron, and I need to get that. Yes, you do, 4M Morris family. I mean, cast iron, as I said, will make you a great gravy. The real difficulty is that it can easily make a gravy that's too thick. So you're just going to have to keep thinning it out, and that means you might end up with, well, more gravy than you expected. One issue with Wagyu beef is it must be cooked to medium so the fat inside renders and intentionally bastes the meat. Otherwise, you end up eating uncooked fat. There is that then. So, in other words, Wagyu, I guess, again, you really can't have it rare. You need to have it at least medium. Well, that's a good thing to consider. As I said, I have never had the chance to eat or cook Wagyu. Isn't it amusing how some of these cooking channels here they just throw around wagyu like for like whatever. Hey, today I've got some more wagyu, and I think we're gonna do something crazy like coat it with chocolate or something like that. Because yeah, this is $100 hunk of wagyu, so who cares? No, I have not had the opportunity, unfortunately, to make wagyu. I suppose one of these days, if I'm lucky enough. But again, the opportunity hopefully might present itself because, some other things have presented themselves here in my kitchen. I mean, some of these great cast iron scores I've been lucky enough to make. So you never know. I mean, whether it's myself or you might be lucky enough to get yourself some Wagyu, maybe even by tomorrow. Crush the garlic. Tried that. I have never tried one, but it seems like you are paying way too much for a lot of fat. Oh, you're still talking about Wagyu, I guess. I've had Wagyu in Japan and it is quite an experience. It is hard to get a sear out of them. It melts in your mouth like butter, but I prefer some grade A US beef, which is what I've been having in my steaks my whole life. I have made cheap steaks. I've made chuck steaks. I made a sirloin steak tonight. I've even cooked top round. And yes, those kind of steaks are definitely more chewy. I have also had ribeye. I've had strip steaks. Um, and those have been wonderful as well. Definitely worth it when you once in a while when you can afford it. But there's nothing wrong with cheap steak either. The most important thing really is the flavor, and the flavor of a good cooked steak is to die for. I have to be honest in that I can't remember the last time I've been to a steakhouse, whether it's what is it called? Texas Roadhouse or what's the other one that I see a lot? Oh God, my mind's gone completely blank. Those steakhouse franchises. Even when I go to places like Applebee's, I never order the steak because why pay 50 to $100 for a steak and fries, which admittedly taste great, when you can make a steak that's just as good for a fraction of the cost in a cast iron pan. Because that 1 pound sirloin steak that I just made tonight, excuse me, sorry about that. That 1 pound sirloin steak I made tonight cost me about $12 at Price Chopper. And I'd have to say it may very well be worth it. So, okay, maybe actually I think it was $10 a pound, so that's a 1.2 pound steak. But again, it was $12. That, of course, plus the cost of the cake ingredients. But even so, I mean, all of this cake and this steak here, I mean, definitely did not cost anywhere close to $50. So, I mean, that's why again, I can't remember the last time I have actually ordered a steak on my takeout. And so there's no need. I mean, when you have a cast iron pan, make yourself a great steak. It doesn't take long, it's easy to do. The ingredients are not expensive, except maybe for the steak itself. And best of all, you get to impress your sweetie by cooking a steak. You know how those silly sitcoms or even movies, whenever the guy invites the girl to come over for dinner, he's usually making her a steak The thing is, she always rings on the doorbell when the steak is done. I mean, she doesn't adverse. You don't ever see her watching the guy cook the steak, which is a shame because it's a great way to show off, especially if you want to get really fancy. Throw in some brandy and do a flambe. So all of that is really great. Oh, cake check, cake check. Good point, good point. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let me take another look at that cake. Definitely browning on top. I think I will break out my Rebel cake tester. I told the story of my cake tester. God, has it been almost a year already? I think. Where did it go? Here it is. My Rebel cake tester, which I have very much since learned to appreciate since I learned its history here. Let me move this over here on the table. Thank you for the reminder, Val. Get out a nice big trivet. Move the camera over. And the microphone. Get out my heavy gloves. And let's test the cake. I mean, if it's not done yet, it'll go back into the oven. And why is this? Oh, that's why. It is showing down here. There we go. All right. Here it comes. Oh, I have to say, this looks nice. All right. Let us get out the cake tester. You know what? I'd have to say, I think this cake is done. Yay! All right, thank goodness. Thank you very much for the reminder, Val, because I do believe we may have just hit it perfectly. All right, that means I can turn off the oven. Maybe adjust this view here a little bit. There we go. And take a couple of pictures. Where's my phone? Here it is. Because it is Valentine's Day, and that's what this cake is for. Come on. There we go. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for the reminder because I do believe we made it. The outer edges are coming away. Yes, they are. That is why I love this method of cooking a cake in a cast iron cake pan here. I've had a high success rate. Of course, I'm saying this before the cake comes out of the oven. This thing is going to have to rest here for 20 minutes. That is one of those other facts that I learned the hard way, which means that at 9:30 we're going to have to we're gonna flip it then and see what happens. Of course, that means I've also got to clean up my mess here. Things like, well, this steak for one. I think I better put a cover over the steak, so that obviously, so that it doesn't cool off. I've also got this mess to clean up, but I will do that, I suppose, when the video is over. We're having fun too. Yes, we are. Watching a cake bake didn't interest me. Well, oh, Val watching a cake bake. Well, I'm sorry about that, Corey Clark. My condolences. But on the other hand, for folks who do like baking cakes, I hope that came out well. Yes, exactly. Well, thank you once again, Val's Black Cat's Rule. All good here. Okay, but yeah, we are doing pretty good here. That's for sure. I mean, again, we cooked a nearly perfect steak. At least I thought so. And with any luck, assuming this cake does not stick when it comes out, we may very well have a nearly perfect cake. Things are doing good indeed. The other thing though is that we can't glaze this cake tonight. The cake is simply too warm. We've got to let the cake cool off before we can put a glaze on it. So that's going to have to be tomorrow morning. Still, not doing too badly. Had a chance to show off the once again the Monarch, that cast iron cake pan. I think I'll say a little bit more about that since we have a little bit of time. So my apologies in advance to Corey Clark because I'm going to be talking about a cast iron cake pan here. But cast iron bundt pans, quite a few of them, especially the vintage ones, are not actually bundt pans because the name bundt was invented in the year 1950 when Nordic Ware trademarked the word bundt. They made that name up. No, but there was no such thing as a bundt cake or a bundt pan before Nordic Ware invented it. Although they have been making, not they, but other companies had been making these cast iron cake pans and all those other cake pans, not just cast iron, since at least the 1800s. They were very popular in Europe, these fancy cake pans, and that must be where they came from. They started out in Europe, maybe around Germany, in fact, and spread all the way to America. Vintage cast iron makers like Griswold and Wagner did indeed make those cake pans during those days. So definitely they were making these cast iron cake pans before the bundt pan came out by Nordic Ware. And there is a Facebook group as well called Cast Iron Bundt Bakers Anonymous. And that is especially where collectors and users of cast iron cake pans like to gather. And I'm on there as well, been on there for years, where they make some amazing cakes and show off some amazing cast iron cake pans. And it was because of the expertise on that group that I was able to identify this particular cake pan when I found it at the Brimfield Antique Show. Apparently, there is a trio of fancy cake pans that are named after royalty. We've got like the Queen. This one is called the Monarch. The design is familiar. I mean, really, just about any cake pan you have seen it, the design of it at one time or another. Maybe not in cast iron, but you have definitely seen it. And so I was lucky enough to score this one, like I said, at Brimfield, and that I consider to be one of my greatest cast iron scores. I put that one, in fact, up on the same level as the discovery of my 15-gallon cast iron cauldron. Not that it's as big as the cauldron, but I was lucky enough to be able to score it at an affordable price. And I have been doing my best to get some use out of that particular cast iron cake pan. I like using my Lodge cast iron cake pan as well. I mean, you have seen, I've made quite a few videos with both of these cake pans because, yeah, I like making cakes in them. They're easy to make, as I found out. They look great, too. So, besides, I have not had much luck making a layer cake. I've done it a few times, and it always has looked lopsided. I find it much easier to use this cast iron one-piece cake pan. All right. If you can guess over a month birthplace, then you can watch a cake bake. Right. I've been through worse. The hubby's not a fan. Got space heaters. Oh, somebody's heating is going out. Well, I can only hope that that you're not doing too badly. Lodge has reintroduced their pineapple cast iron cake pan. Yeah, I heard about that as well, Glenn K. Apparently, they re-released it within the last year or so, which is another baking pan for folks who want to make a nice looking cake. And why not? I mean, a pineapple shaped cake is certainly something worth getting if you feel like it. I have not gotten that pineapple cake pan. I don't know if I've actually had the urge to get it myself. I don't know. Maybe because I already have these two vintage cast iron cake pans, and I also have several baking pans, including a Turk's head pan. So, but that's just me. I mean, other folks, of course, who collect these things may feel differently. Besides, I also have the cast iron, the Lodge cast iron skull cake pan, which I've used each Halloween so far. Upside down or right side up? I suppose you could do it either way in regards to the pineapple cake. Can anyone give a top five essential cast iron cookware list? Would the bunt pan be on that list? Okay, not Hype 1244. This is a matter of preference. I think there is a top three cast iron pans that you absolutely must have. If you are first starting out with collecting cast iron, these are the three pans you absolutely must get. Number one, a 10-inch cast iron skillet. I mean, that goes without saying. We could spend an entire episode of this live just talking about why a cast 10-inch cast iron skillet is the absolute most essential cooking piece you may want in your kitchen. No kitchen should be without a 10-inch cast iron skillet. That is number one. For me, number two would be a cast iron Dutch oven. Um, and here it becomes a matter of preference. I love my bare cast iron Dutch ovens. Folks love their enamel cast iron Dutch ovens. I love my enamel cast iron Dutch ovens. You get an enormous amount of use out of either of them. But whether it's enameled or bare, I would say a cast iron Dutch oven is number two on that list. Those are the two things that really absolutely every kitchen should not be without. And number three, a different size cast iron skillet. Maybe a bigger cast iron pan like a 12-inch, or maybe a smaller cast iron pan like an 8-inch. Here is where it becomes a matter of preference, I guess. But those are, I would have to say, would be the three essential cast iron items that every single kitchen should have. After that, you start branching out, and then it becomes a matter of preference. I would probably myself would place a cast iron wok at number four on this list. In that I get an enormous amount of use out of my cast iron wok. I mean, I dedicate one of these cast iron live videos every month almost to wok cooking. So I mean, I would definitely say then that a cast iron wok would probably be number four on that list. Then from there, oh man, it gets much more difficult. You see, if you bake, then you might consider a cast iron pie plate, although you can do the same thing with a skillet. Or maybe you might indeed want to consider a cast iron cake pan. Or you might want to consider a cast iron muffin pan. But you see, it goes or. It's very difficult. So, I mean, after those top three, I would really have to say, I mean, it really becomes a matter of preference. Again, if you like baking cakes, then I'm sure you know that a bundt pan, not necessarily a cast iron bundt pan, but if you are a baker, then a bundt pan is a necessity in your kitchen. I personally think a cast iron bundt pan may very well be the best bundt pan out there, but not everybody agrees with that because, well, of course, not everybody cooks these things in cast iron. So everybody needs a lamb mold. Yeah, there we go, Rocket Caver. Yeah, that's the next thing that we're going to be seeing in about a month because Easter, if I remember right, we're having an early Easter again this year, I think. I'll have to look it up, but I believe Easter is it as early as St. Patrick's Day? I'm not sure, but I'm going to have to check. But I do believe Easter is next month in March. Second that Turk's head idea. Yeah, a lamb mold with spiral potatoes. Okay, yuck. I know. The spiral potato thing. I do keep an aluminum bundt pan for jello molds. Yes, and there's nothing wrong with an aluminum bundt pan. I am not going to shame anyone who uses things other than cast iron. I love cast iron, but I have since grown up, so to speak, and I have gotten to the point where I'm not going to shame anybody for using things other than cast iron. If you're using nonstick, well, more power to you, although I prefer you don't. If you are using, again, stainless steel or carbon steel or aluminum, well, again, more power to you. As long as you have fun cooking in your kitchen, that's really probably the best thing I could possibly say. All right. Gonna have freezing rain in a few minutes here. We've already had freezing rain here tonight. The forecast here in mid-state New York is supposedly for maybe 3 to 6 inches, but every time it has said that, it in my particular town, it seems to have been considerably less. I seem to be in a valley here which actually cuts down on the amount of snow that we get. Although there is definitely a lot of snow on the ground right now. I'm expecting there to be maybe an inch or two on the ground when I get up tomorrow, which means more shoveling is in order. Yeah. A big skookie would be cool. Yes, indeed. That is one of the things you can do with a cast iron skillet. In fact, when Valentine's Day is over, there you go. I mean, I have made those garbage cookies, as I call them, where you take up the leftover candy and you bake it in a pan with cookie dough in essentially the same way you would do a chocolate chip cookie, except that you're adding the candy instead. So there's one consideration. Of course, the cost of chocolate has gone up so incredibly that who knows how much leftover candy anyone here might have. Ugh. Huggy Bear, I have a set of hard anodized pots and pans, and a lot of the coating has worn off over the years. That means I've been eating it. Well, there is that. And that is one reason why I am very glad that I fell in love with cast iron. Because, well, there is not because that possibility is a lot less likely. Or even if I am eating the coating on a cast iron pan, all I'm eating is seasoning, which is basically carbonized or burned vegetable oil. So that's not so bad. Easter was on my nephew's birthday when he was born. Well, congratulations for that too. Fiber in that buggy. Yes, that's a good way to call it. Because I'm one other thing that I myself am not going to do on this channel ever. I am not going to be someone who spreads conspiracy theories. People who argue about poisons in your food can generally take it and go somewhere else. I'm not interested in that. A lot of that is not true. The parts that are true, well, it's really hard to determine what's true and what isn't. And that's all I'm going to go into on that subject tonight. I could very well actually dedicate a whole video to that subject at some point, and maybe I will some point soon. Sam Ostroff, I recently acquired a 3.5 stainless saucier. Very versatile. Oh, that sounds good. I mean, Dave, nothing wrong with a nice size saucepan for that. Besides, as far as not cooking in cast iron, I mean, as folks know, I have fallen in love with my aluminum Dutch oven, my Magnalite Dutch oven. Even to the point where I recently acquired a huge aluminum stock pot, which is not Magnalite, but it is definitely aluminum. And I have said many times, and I will continue to say, aluminum cookware is safe for cooking. Aluminum does not cause Alzheimer's disease or cancer or dementia or anything like that. See, that's what I mean. I will not use this channel to spread conspiracy theories. I've gone over that many times. You can look up my videos that I have done talking about aluminum, in fact, and I will gladly stand behind each and every one of them. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Vegetable oils are for sure horrible for you, not a conspiracy theory. Actually, some of it, quite frankly, Brody, is a conspiracy theory. This whole thing about seed oils is nonsense. I repeat, the seed oil thing is nonsense. I mean, it's true that there are some oils that are less healthy than others, but there's nothing special about seed oils that is any different from the vegetable oils we have been using for hundreds of years. So, okay. So a certain HHS director won't be a guest on the channel? No, he won't. And frankly, I don't care if it's an HHS director or the Surgeon General of the United States. Uh, Whoever he is, he needs to present evidence. I don't. I mean, that's what's more important, frankly, evidence. Because there are doctors out there that spread conspiracy theories, like Mercola, for instance. And I would rather be someone who trusts evidence and science more than somebody flashing a certificate or a badge. Okay. Um. All right, Brody. As I said, we will go over the seed oil thing some other time. Okay. Um. Other than that, however, you know what? It's 9:30. That means we are finally ready to well, here comes the make or break moment once again. Is my oven turned off? Yes, it is. It means it's time once again to see how well or how poorly this cake turned out. And actually, that's one other thing. I get to show off a new cake carrier. I found this at Goodwill about a month or so ago. I found a nice, I don't know if it's vintage or not, but I got one of these metal cake carriers. And yeah, that's so yeah, when I came across this at Goodwill, yeah, you better believe I sprung for it. All right. So, now that we've done that, okay, I better move the steak to the side. Make more room here, shall we? And I better move this knife as well. Yeah, I better move this knife. Okay. Now let's put the camera back over here. And let's do this right. Move these things out of the way. And it is time now to break out this little spatula and start releasing. Oops, there it goes, of course. Start releasing the edges of the cake. Fortunately, nobody's going to see this little piece. Num, num, num. All right. In fact, let me get the microphone closer so that you can hear when I'm mumbling here. Okay, now this, and now for the outside. I can only hope, as always, that this is successful. I mean, I've said already that I have a high success rate, not 100%. And here's where I get to see whether I have expensive egg on my face or not. That means we get to do this. Let's move this camera up, shall we? As I'm sure you want to see the results here. All right. Get some of these other things out of the way. Move this away from the edge of the table. Get out my gloves. Not those silicone gloves, because I do not want this thing to slip. And actually, in fact, I think I only need one of these. Well, first, let's get this out of here. Into my hand. There we go. Okay. Come on. This is always the fun part. All right. In fact, I think I'll just do it barehanded this way. And a 1, a 2, a 3. Okay, now that I have done that, here comes the other fun part, lifting the cake, because it's still warm nonetheless. Yeah, I forgot to get the cake lifter. All right, just do it little by little. Okay, there we go, got it. That means here comes the moment of truth. Ha ha! Check this out too. Yes! Ha ha! Got it. Man, does this ever look good too? Oh, does this ever smell good? Holy cow. Oh man. Thank you very much for the reminder, Val's Black Cat's rules. I think we did it at exactly the right moment. Uh, because look at that. We got it. Bring this in a little bit. All right. But there we are. Here is our Valentine's Day vanilla cake, which is still quite warm, in fact. So I'm definitely will not be able to glaze this until tomorrow morning. But the hard part is done because, yes, we did it. We cooked a steak in cast iron that came out about as good as I could have hoped. And look at the color on this. Look at this outer crust on this, which is actually quite soft. But I mean, really, the color on this is perfect. So yeah, this I would have to say tonight was a success. And really, your advice, folks, also helped. I'm very grateful to all of you for really for chatting on this too. And yes, thank you very much for the reminder to subscribe. But all right. Yeah, yes, exactly, Jim Glatar. This has been a good night. I'm quite happy about that. And I'll say again, if I may, plug my method. As you saw, I baked this in a cast iron cake pan. I did this by preheating the cake pan, greasing the cake pan, adding it to the cake pan while it was still hot, and here is the result. All of this I have on my website, and I have videos as well about making the cake with this manner, a manner that I'm quite happy with, because now I get to present this cake to my to the a close friend's family that I've recently been gotten really close to. I've told you about that, my Jamaican family, and they're calling me part of their family too, which is also very flattering. But I do believe we have it. Here it is. Cast iron cake and steak. And I don't want to drip this onto the cake, that's for sure. All right. That means, especially since it's past 9:30, I do believe, let me move it once again, do believe we are about ready to call this an evening because we have certainly done what we wanted to do. And as always, I only have you folks here to thank for being here, really. Again, having you folks here on this channel really inspires me to do my very best for you because, as I've said, these videos are a lot of fun. And if they weren't fun, I wouldn't have been doing these for 4.5 years. And I certainly intend to continue doing these for, well, who knows how long, because I love cooking in cast iron, but doing these live videos here with you is really, as I said, it really is a highlight of my week, and I can only thank everybody for being here, especially when we have a nice success the way tonight was, and I'm quite happy with that. So thank you to everybody who's really been kind enough to show up here and even to spend all this time tonight. Folks like R.T. Scott and Val's Black Cat Rules and Cynthia Wesley and Mark Sieber, King Cake for Mardi Gras. Oh, there's certainly a possibility. In fact, I think, are we in Mardi Gras already? Since, I mean, after all, as I said, Easter is only next month, if I remember right. And thank you as well to Greg Hart and Corey Clark and Sam Ostroff and 4M Morris family. And well, yeah, having you folks here really is the bomb. And I'm really glad to be able to do this each week. So thank you. And as well, Honey Badger, who's going to be having his own live video tomorrow too. So we'll see what he does. Tomorrow is the day before Thanksgiving, day before Valentine's Day. So who knows what we'll be seeing in Honey Badger's kitchen tomorrow. Maybe he will make, oh, I don't know, fried peanut butter sandwiches for the kids, perhaps. Because what's wrong with that? Especially when they're made in cast iron. And thank you as well. Yes, thank you to Clico and VL Triple X and everybody else. Yeah, well, thank you. I'm glad I do my best to entertain everybody too, and I'm so glad that a lot of people enjoy these because I certainly intend on doing this for quite a while yet. So thank you to everybody, and I'd say it's about time to call this an evening. So thank you so much. Besides, I've got to finish off that steak. So, and thank you to William Hurt and Sam Ostroff and everybody else. And we could see you tomorrow on Honey Badger's channel. But as for me, I will end this the way I end this every time with a quote from 2001 at the Space Odyssey. See you next Wednesday.